What's going on, y'all? I just been really trying to muster up the courage to honestly come in, just talk to you guys about, life. There's just so much in my mind, so much on my heart that I just wanted to, turn the camera on and just talk. Recently, I had, suffered a pretty serious ankle injury in like a pickup game, and my initial thought was like, how can this happen? Like, how can this happen to me? I have been in the gym, working out, doing like 2 days, staying patient, been in my word every morning, trying my best to eliminate distractions, thinking I'm doing things the right way. And then this tragedy just happens where it's like, how? Like how could this happen? Worst possible timing. And sometimes in life, God can just see us moving too quickly or thinking that we're not prepared for what he has in store for us yet. So he has to put us through something else and refine us even more to get us ready for what he has in store. I've been on this journey for a while where now I'm, trying to take my faith a lot more seriously, trying to take that jump where I'm building a real relationship with God, and I'm looking at things from a different perspective. I've had minor and serious injuries in the past. I remember where my head was at back then. I remember where my head was at when I had a pretty bad injury. When I first got to Mercyhurst, when I first got there, and I was hooping, during the preseason, and then had a really good first game of the year, first game of the season, and I get hurt, and this is like right after I transferred. And man, my head was spinning, like I was so down. I feel like I let my family down. I feel like I was, disappointed them because I left a pretty serious situation to go chase my dreams, and then I get hurt. So, I had some really bad, really dark, really unproductive thoughts. But, now going through this injury where, to me, I'm like, how is this possible? Like, I'm thinking I'm in shape, but I think that's where you ask yourself, or you do that reflection and say, like, what is God trying to tell me here? God, that I was being, thought I was being a good steward. What do you want me to see here? And like I talked, this journey, I'm not perfect. There are days where I fall short, days where, I don't measure up. And, I have to ask God for forgiveness, or I gotta ask God to straighten me up on this path that I'm trying to walk, this very narrow path. And I really do think that something like this is supposed to be an eye-opener for me to be able to stick to that path and carry out that calling that he has in my life. Around this time, 4 years ago, I was in the transfer portal. I was back home in Chicago, and during this time, I didn't know where I was going to school. Like, I was turning down all types of schools that were hitting me up because I just didn't feel like it was where I wanted to go. And I watched a sermon on purpose. That was the first time I had really taken the time to reflect on what exactly I'm here to do on earth. Like, what is my calling? Growing up, playing ball, going to school, those are things that were just second nature to me. Just like I had to do it, but I never really sat down and thought about, like, what am I called to do? Because, you can't play ball for the rest of your life. I can go to school forever. What am I supposed to do here? After watching it, I felt like I was uncovering myself a little bit more outside of basketball, but with distractions and lack of discipline, that's when you start to lose touch with your purpose. I've had nothing but time to think about what my purpose is and what I'm called to do, and the kind of example I'm supposed to be for others around me, the people who I spend my time with, the people I encounter every single day, and how I'm supposed to live. I think thoughts like that force you to be accountable, especially, as a Christian, because in a world where you're encouraged to think about yourself, overthinking about others, it's tough. It's really tough to flip that mindset, to have that mindset like 24/7. I've come to realize that it really isn't about me. It's about him. It's about him and what he wants me to do. You can't put yourself in God's place. God is, pulling you in one direction. You got to just let it happen. And it's a scary place to be in. And it's uncomfortable too. But, God's plans are for good and not for evil. So sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where we're doing something that we didn't necessarily think we do, or we're not where we thought we were supposed to be. But it could just be God leading you in the direction where he needs to use you the most, where he knows you're going to have a really big impact on this type of person or these kind of people, or he knows you're going to minister to this person one day, and that message is going to reside in someone's mind, and it's going to cultivate in their heart, and they're going to be able to carry out God's duty in that way. You can be a missing puzzle piece to the greater picture. And I think that's where we have to just let go and let God. It's really tough. It's a hard battle every single day. But that's the one thing about surrendering and obedience. It's just taking that pressure off of you and trusting that, God's going to take care of it. I feel like everyone has goals and you want to achieve your goals. But, it's one thing, you got to pray and ask God to align your goals to, his plan for you, to align your heart and, your thoughts and your desires to what he wants. At the end of the day, I was doing Bible study with my buddy when we were, looking at the book of Ecclesiastes. And man, if y'all haven't read the book Ecclesiastes, I highly suggest you guys to go ahead and read that, because it talks about some really serious stuff. A couple of verses talk about how we have all these things on earth. We can't take none of this with us when we go to heaven. All these earthly treasures, all these things that society puts so much emphasis on, we can't take none of them with us to heaven. And, I say that not to say that, you don't pursue greatness, don't pursue excellence. You can do that, but don't put your whole faith and your whole trust and your whole identity in earthly things. At the end of the day, none of this coming with us. When I read that, my mindset on certain things is just different, because now it's I'm not working hard to get X, Y, and Z. I'm working hard to please God. I'm working hard to make him happy. And I think it's important to live with a purpose, to live on purpose. When I have just random thoughts in my mind now or other days, and I just think about this perspective shift that I've had, and it's crazy. Because when you shift your mind and you start to see things from a different lens, not from a selfish lens, but from a different lens where it really isn't about you. When you start to shift your mindset from that angle, certain things that bug you, that used to bug you, don't bug you no more. It can be the littlest thing. It could be dropping something, stubbing your toe, you lash out. Certain things like that will happen and you're just calm. Don't even spaz anymore. And like I said, I'm not perfect. There are days where I slip up, and it's the effort that's important and the desire to want to get better and grow. We're gonna fall short. We're not perfect, but that's what we gotta ask for, God's strength and his guidance to just take over and lead us. If you really sit down and just think about where you were before and where you are now, don't beat yourself up when you fall short. Ask God for strength to get back up and to keep going, push through, because that's what he wants for us to do. It's our purpose for us to push through and to be a blessing unto others.